Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a bonus episode of Honorability Time. Long time no hear, right? Right? It's been a minute since you know, um, there's been an episode. Season 6 will get started towards the end of this year, which is at the time of this recording, fall 2024. So probably after, oh God, not the COVID. Knock on wood, it's not COVID, but yeah, probably after election time. I started my PhD program, so I'm still settling in and adjusting. But there's something that I wanted to talk about before I get back into my homework. Hope trauma. Um, Basically, kind of, how can I best explain it? For me, it's kind of like a PTSD when it comes to hope, or hoping. Um, I am not a fan anymore of myself having hope. And I don't mean that necessarily in a pessimistic way. I mean that as in, when I believe or when I hope in something, oh, I go all in. There's no like in between. It's either all in or all out. And, hope, it's a great idea to, just have. It sounds good on paper. There's a lot of stress and, damage and tolls that I take mentally, so much so that the mental begin to affect the physical. And so now I'm very hesitant to hope, just because I'm in my head like, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. I don't want to. Either I don't know how to hope correctly, or I hope um too good. I hope extremely well, or I'm just not hoping correctly. But either or, it's giving me a lot of like. How about this? I've had to recover from hope. The higher the hope, or in my case, the harder I hope, the harder I fall. When hope is there just to give me an illusion, because I don't like being in the unknown. So I rather hope because at least it gets me close to an answer. Rather than unknown, where I'm just like in limbo and I'm just like, well, I don't know what to do but wait. And so I rather like have something to do while I wait, which is hope. However, that has not been my friend. Hope has not been my friend for the past, I think, almost decade. And I'm not necessarily taking this. I'm not necessarily meaning this in a more pessimistic way. I'm meaning this in a more just honest way. At least for me, when I was told about hope, or when I hear about hope, it sounds so pretty and just great on paper. It just sounds like, it's, at least this is how I interpret it, is that it just sounds like, the right thing to do. It sounds beautiful. It sounds easy. Um, at least that's how I have been taught it. And that's that's how I begin to view hope. And I always wondered why it didn't work like that for me. So when I do hope, you know, it almost always, I don't want to say almost always, but majority of the time, it just turns out that like hope is not my friend. And I would have been better off, just being stuck in the limbo. I wonder if me having hope stems from my fear of patience, you know, because like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of like hope at least gets me close to an answer that I do want, rather than me just waiting in the moment in limbo in the quote unquote I don't know area, or the quote unquote I'm just waiting area and there's nothing happening. I don't like doing that for, there's many reasons why I don't like waiting. you know, because every time I've had to wait growing up, that's because something wrong was happening behind the scenes. I wasn't just I wasn't taught my experiences didn't teach me that patience is a virtue. My experience taught me in life, childhood, my experiences taught me that patience um, can be a dangerous thing, meaning that you're waiting for example, for me, how about this? I'm waiting for, my home environment to not be so traumatic. Like I'm waiting for the day that, excuse me, was waiting for the day that me and my parents, that they would finally love me. That never happened. So I was just waiting and waiting and waiting, and thinking everything was just normal and all right, that maybe this is how everyone lives. Turns out everything was going completely wrong. Everything was wrong. Once I, you know, became exposed to what healthy family looks like, I was able to realize that my family was horror, you know? And so, uh, and it even stemmed into little things like, waiting at a drive through. You know, my experiences with like, for example, like waiting at a drive-through, it wasn't I didn't have that luxury of, oh, they're just taking their time on my food, or things happen. No, my experience has been, they completely lost my order. um and so I'm just waiting there, but until I finally said something, they're like, oh yeah, we're so sorry, we forgot your order or lost your order, which it happens. But to me, even just little things like that taught me that in the waiting, I don't have that luxury of waiting. Because maybe the situation is waiting for me to move. The situation is waiting for me to say something in order to get things done. Or else I'm just going to be waiting and forgotten and forgotten, And so that's a little bit more on the like, I would say smaller side of my like issues with waiting. And I'm going to tie this back into hope trauma. Um, but the main issues with waiting and with patience, it started from a very traumatic childhood. You know what I mean? Where waiting didn't mean a good thing experience wise. Waiting, circumstantial wise, was never a good thing. It was never a virtue. It means that something wrong or something horribly wrong was the culprit behind it. And so trauma and just life has taught me, don't wait. Don't wait. You have to do something. I just my life just haven't I just haven't had that luxury of everyone else that gets to just, wait. And it doesn't necessarily mean something's completely wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean that everything has stopped. You know, it could mean that they just have to wait because things are just, slowed down a little bit. I never had that luxury. My experience with waiting means something traumatic was about to happen, um or something just completely stopped, or that I'm just forgotten, or that, it won't get better, it got worse. So waiting to me is very traumatic. And so one of my coping mechanisms was, in the waiting, what I can do is hope for the better rather than just stay stuck in the waiting because that was traumatic. However, hope was not necessarily my best friend because things didn't get better, things got worse. You know what I mean? And so nowadays, when I hope, it's traumatic for me to hope. However, I've trained myself to hope in moments. And so after I've hoped, and then after the situation, falls apart or doesn't turn out how it was supposed to turn out. And I say supposed to turn out because I'm talking about, like, let's say if a job says, oh, this is how things are going to happen, and then it just doesn't happen that way. So was it supposed to turn out? And then there's also my expectations also went against me because I'm just like, okay, I have these expectations, and then oh, that failed completely, or life had other plans, or it just was not meant to be, you know? So what happens after that hope is I have what I call a hope crash. You know, when I hope hard or when I hope high, you know, the harder the impact. You know, um when hope fails me. And so I then have to take that toll and I have to begin to recover from that hope. And it just seemed to have just gotten worse on me, you know, mentally. Because for me, you know, hope was a survival mechanism for me. Um, Not all my survival mechanisms um, helped me to survive. A lot of them, you know, in fact, did the opposite. And so now I'm working on taking a break from hoping and just letting myself know, you know what, maybe it's now safe to wait and just wait and just try to experience the virtue in waiting. But then again, I've never had that luxury. I don't know what that's like. I never got to understand that statement on a personal level. I never got to understand it. I was just like, everyone, it seems like everyone gets to wait and it's more of a virtue, you know, whereas me, a lot of just damage was happening in the waiting because it was outside of my control, and the forces that were outside of my control that were in control, those were damaging, unsafe, you know, forces. You know, it just waiting for me was never safe. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm meaning to say. Waiting for me was never safe. And so hope seemed to be the only good thing that I could get, even though it was damaging. It was better than nothing. You know, at least I can give myself an illusion of what something can feel like. You know, even, and I'm just like, I may never get that thing that I'm hoping for, you know, but at least while I wait to find out, at least I can feel a little good, you know, rather than just wait and just be waiting. But that's the thing. Waiting was traumatic for me. I never had that luxury of being able to just wait. You know, there's always something sinister going on behind the scenes that was outside of my control that was forcing me to wait. So even till this day, you know, waiting, it, it's a reason why I freak out when I have to wait. There's a reason why. I feel like my impatience stems more from trauma and unsafety and survival rather than impatience itself. I feel like there's a deeper root to my impatience. Um, it's kind of like a tree. There's roots, but what we see on the outside is the tree trunk and the branches and the leaves. The tree trunk is impatience, right? And the branches stem from the freakouts, you know, and then the leaves, I don't know what that symbolizes, but the point of the matter is I feel like for a lot of people, there's a deeper meaning and a deeper root to why they freak out when they have to wait on something. You know, not saying that everyone's had a traumatic childhood. What I am saying is that maybe there have been circumstances that have taught them to not feel safe in waiting. You know, maybe not every experience people have had in waiting was a virtue, you know, and that's not saying everyone that has experienced that it's necessarily traumatic. What I'm saying is it maybe has helped internalize that okay, patience may not be a virtue. in that circumstance. And when that and it can be the smallest things. For example, like a drive-through order. Maybe the restaurant isn't uh you know just taking their time on the order. Things take time, something happens, maybe they're super busy. Maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it was just they completely forgot your order, or completely, missed the order, or completely lost the ticket that has all your, food information. And you had to, go against waiting to get something done. Because that's the thing about the waiting. How do we know what's happening, when it's external forces, things outside of our control? How do we know what's happening? How do we know what's happening? What if it could be a moment to experience patience as a virtue? But what if it's just, okay, maybe you need to say something. Maybe you got to go against the waiting in order to get something done. So it's hard to discern that. It's hard to figure out what to do. And if most of your experiences have been you had to do something in order to get something, you know, that you're waiting for, you know, it can make it hard to unlearn that, in moments where, patience is just a virtue. But to me, patience is more traumatic. And I don't think that's talked about enough. And that leads into the hope, because it's like, instead of me being impatient, the healthiest thing that I could do was to hope, and that came to bite me. I'm just starting to think, maybe I should just be in the impatience, or maybe I should just practice patience as a virtue. I still don't have that luxury. There's seems to always be something, that I need, this something that I need to do in order to get something to get done. Because what if they're not just taking their time? I mean, I'm not saying they're like bad people for getting your order, or bad people for, for example, HR missing your the next part of your hiring process. you know I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm just saying, what if they're not just taking their time because they're busy? What if they literally just lost it because, they are busy? They forgot about me, and I'm kind of like dealing with that right now. And that's why I'm just like, this is, I wish I got to experience the patience is a virtue thing. I just don't get to experience that. And it just seems like it's all against me rather than for me. And so I'm having to take a break from hoping, because it's just so traumatic. Having hope to me is just so traumatic. And I'm wondering, is that a thing for other people? What I call hope trauma. Not saying that hope is bad. I'm just saying, what happens after that hope is over? How does that affect the person? Does that, help them in their journey? Did the hope work out for them? Did they get the result that they wanted? Or, was it a learning opportunity, or was it more damaging for them? I feel like, for me, it hits differently, because it's like, hope was more so, like, growing up in the most traumatic stages of my life. Hope was more so, I had nowhere else to go but hope. Whether hope was my friend or not, it was the only thing that I had. At least it was something, you know. And growing up as a child, that mindset is, hope can be bad for me, but at least it's still better than what was happening to me. At least it's better than the trauma. Still could be bad, but it could be, but I rather bad than worse. So if I had to choose, and I felt like I had to choose, mind you, I felt like I had no option, no other option but to choose bad or choose worse. Because if I just stayed stuck, in the middle, it, it seemed worse. So I rather at least move to bad than just stay in worse. So it's just like I was getting hit on both ends. So that's something that I'm struggling with. And I'm glad I'm able to now, like, make words about it. um, to verbalize it, hope trauma. The trauma that comes from hoping. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean like brutal trauma. It could just mean like just an effect on you, an effect that changes your way of thinking or does some type of damage to you. And I'm not saying this has to be like extreme damage. It doesn't have to be as traumatic as mine. It could be more traumatic. It could be way less traumatic. But whatever it is, it's noticeable enough to you that makes you kind of like hesitant to hope. Um, I feel like not everything that is supposed to be safe was safe. And so hope sounds good on paper, excuse me. Hope sounds great on paper. I just don't have that luxury of the stereotypical hope, that I see so many people get to experience. To me, hope is not a virtue. I can see it in others why hope is their virtue, but when it comes to my life, when it comes to the circumstances, I cannot control a lot of circumstances. That is the culprit. It just seems like a lot of things that I'm not able to control have been the bad guys. I'm able to control what I do, but I can't control everything. And when it's outside of my control, the harm or the help falls on the mercy of the external factors that I can't control. And those external factors can do whatever they will, do whatever they wish, and I can't control that. But I can control me. And I hate that saying of you only focus on what you can control. That is deadly and dangerous. Excuse me, that is deadly and dangerous to just focus only on what you can control. I feel like that statement is not necessarily so valid in every circumstance. I feel like there are certain circumstances where, yes, that statement is helpful, but I think it's dangerous to generalize that on every circumstance, especially when you don't know the person, know what they've been through, know what they're going through, know how bad the situation is, because, like, I, yeah, like, I had horrible parents, very traumatic, abusive parents. I couldn't control them. I can control me, but I couldn't control them. And so it kind of like made me internalize, as a survival mechanism, made me internalize, how I view external factors that I can't control. You know, it'd be one thing if I was able to trust or view the external factors as not a harmful thing, as not doing something harmful to me. But it seems like, all of the factors that I couldn't control they were just to harm me. They had the power to just harm me. And so me, when it comes to things I can't control, which ties into the waiting, which ties into the hope, when it comes when it comes to things I can't control, it is scary. It is scary. It is something I am aware of, yes. I am aware not every situation, will turn out scary. However, it took tons of years for me to learn that behavior, learn that mindset, because that's all that's been shown to me. I'm not just pulling that mindset out of my ass. I'm not just being, negative. I'm being honest and I'm being a survivor. I'm telling you the survival skill that I had to pick up, you know. So now that things are a little different, just like it took 20 years to give me that mindset, it's going to take 20, 25 years to give me a new mindset, because the mindset that I do have did not happen overnight. Um, so that's kind of what um, I have to say about hope trauma. Um, that's how I feel about hope trauma. I'm not a fan of hope at this point in my life. Um, I think it's healthier for me to just take a break from hope and just be in the moment. Not necessarily be pessimistic, but just be. You know, just wait or just practice that. Or just do actions but without hope. Um and just experience this time without the lens or the blindness or the expectation or the biases that hope can bring to me. It's just like maybe I'm not supposed to hope right now. Maybe I'm just supposed to experience and see situations for more than it is. Maybe I don't need an illusion. Maybe I just need the truth and to just allow myself to be in that truth. You know, still might hurt me, but it will hurt a lot less than having hope. So maybe if that makes sense to you, that's because it fell on the right ears at the right time. If it didn't make sense, then that's okay. Maybe it's not going to make sense right now to you because maybe it doesn't apply to you. um, because I can see how what I just said can be confusing to some, you know. But if you are able to understand it, then maybe it's for you, or maybe you can relate to it in some way, or maybe it. Yeah, maybe, or maybe it just maybe you're able to understand it because I guess I explained it well. I hope I explained it well. That's one of my insecurities is not explaining things well, so I have to like over explain things. Speaking of insecurities, oh my gosh, my insecurities have been beating my ass lately. I mean, I'm just like, all that damn healing. I did not heal this much and go through all that work just for insecurities to be hitting me as if I've never healed. And I'm just like, what the fuck? It just, what the fuck? um, yeah. So, send good vibes my way because I totally need it. Anyways, anyone excited for elections? I'm excited because I'm not gonna get all into it just because I wanted this episode to be short. But I will say this: I'm not speaking about policies when I say this next statement. I'm not speaking about that. My next statement is more symbolic, you know. And no, I'm not no, I'm not voting based off symbolism. I'm not. I'm voting based off policies, and my biases are in there a little bit, but my biases aren't the end all be all. But I will say this: I will literally shed tears of joy. I'm not even joking. I will literally shed tears of joy when I see the glass ceiling break. I think glass ceiling is completely unfair, and I think glass ceilings dehumanize humans. Um, Especially the humans that have to carry babies for 9 months and go through just pregnancy sickness, vomiting all the time and stuff like that, and go through the pain of labor. um I think that is fair to treat humans as humans because we are humans, so why not treat a human like a human, you know so I think it is very, very important that humans see glass ceilings break. I think it is very important. The amount of abuse and harassment and injustice that people experience because of a glass ceiling, um, we wouldn't like it if we experienced that. For example, you know what? For example, I was talking to someone the other day, and they don't like. They're a male. They're male. They identify as male as well. Um, but they don't like how society is starting to view men. And I told them, I was like, okay, now imagine you don't like it, and you've just now started to experience that. You know how many years women have experienced that, and they had to put up with that. So many women have just experienced that their whole lifetime, because not everyone gets to live to see the next century. To not everyone gets to live to see huge change. So imagine how you're feeling now. Imagine how um women have had to feel that for so long. You don't like it, right? So, how do you think women feel? You think women like it? You're just barely feeling it. So, I think it's important that no one is made to feel that way, right? And I think a huge step forward would be that glass ceiling breaking, because I'm tired of that damn ceiling. Um, I'm I'm tired of that damn ceiling. It's time for the glass ceiling to break. Okay, all right, because everyone's human, everyone's important, and we wouldn't like to see certain discrimination on our own mothers, would we? Um, and I wonder if a lot of like sons would sit down and have a conversation with their mothers and say, "Can you tell me about the harassment or just the oppression that you have experienced?" I think a lot of sons would be surprised that their mothers have experienced sexual harassment in the workplace, and not being able to speak about it, because nothing would get done about it. Um, Once people view that hurt on someone that they care about, I think it would change their mindset rather than looking at things from a macro level or from a societal level and hearing harassment and oppression stories from people you don't even know. It's definitely will open the eyes once it's more personalized, when it's someone you really care about, because I'm sure you would not want your mother to be harassed in front of you. I'm sure you would say something. So I think it's symbolic for, especially for like, I'm just going to personalize it for a lot of people's mothers who have experienced, oppression, who haven't talked to their kids about their experiences. I think a lot of people would be shocked and feel a lot of like just pity and empathy and sympathy, knowing that their own mothers were like touched inappropriately in a workplace but couldn't do nothing about it. You know what I mean? To be like, yeah, guess what? Your mother was sexually abused and harassed in the workplace, and you didn't know that, did ya? Because it was taught to keep quiet about it. And so, I, for so many reasons, okay, I think it is important for a glass ceiling to break. Okay. I'm not speaking about policies right now. I'm not doing that, but I do. There are some policies that I agree and disagree with when it comes to, certain candidate, both candidates. One I have more disagreements than the other. Um, but research speaking, I'm speaking based off research. The candidate that I do agree with most just so happens to be the one that's about to break the glass ceiling. And I'm not just saying like it's just her that's going to break the glass ceiling. Many people that have also voted for her are helping this change come through. I think we're tired of the fluff. I think we're tired of the oppression. I think we're tired of just people being limited, you know? Um I think we're tired of it, and I'm really proud of how far society has come, and I'm proud about how far men have come as well. Because men also are a huge part in helping women break the glass ceiling. So, and why? Because I'm like a lot of men are going to be voting. Okay, just in general. So, I think it's important. So I'm not like dogging men, trust me. I'm recognizing the strengths, and I'm also recognizing the history that people have come from, and now those that have never experienced certain oppressions are now starting to experience oppressions. So they're now able to finally see This does not feel good, does it? This is the oppression that people were talking about. Now you get to experience it from a personal level, and how disgusting it feels and how unfair it feels just for being you, just for being something that you can't control, right? You were born a biological male and identify as a male, and you couldn't necessarily control that on this earth, right? But it seems like you're paying the price for it, and you didn't even do nothing wrong. That's how so many people have felt, who have been oppressed. And so I think it's important to investigate why we're feeling this way and think maybe someone else is feeling this hurt and I don't like it. So I know damn well they didn't like it. Maybe their words, maybe they weren't exaggerating. Um, but I think it's definitely great that we're able to see that symbolism. And yeah, and I don't care necessarily about, race or ethnicity. Um, I think it's symbolic to the world, just because America does seem to be, a superpower, and a lot of people look to America. So I think it's so important to see, you know, women be treated as humans, because they are humans. So why not treat women like humans? Um, if we took every woman away from the world right now, do you think the world would be, you know, able to, just work? So I'm just like, yes, women are very important, as well. So I don't like how, historically speaking, women were treated as not important. So, to me, thankfully, a lot of my agreements do align with um, my biases, because I don't vote based on biases, but a lot of my, agreements on the policies align more with the candidate who does align with my biases. It feels so good when research and my biases go together, because if research triumphs over my biases, I have to go with research because I recognize that I have biases, but my goal is to make sure my biases don't have me. Okay. So I do appreciate that, and I'm glad that, um based off the research that I've done on, certain policies that certain candidates have, that I tend to agree more, not fully, but agree more with the one that I will cry tears of joy because it is symbolic. I've just seen women go through horrible stuff and be silenced, and it just breaks my heart, because I've been through a lot of horrible stuff and was kept silent, and it's just. But I just hate that this has been like that's been a reality on Earth for so long, for women. So that's what I think, and I'm excited to see that all unfold when the glass ceiling breaks. Whether you agree with the candidate or not, that's totally fair. But if the candidate, I really think the candidate's gonna win. If she does win, I would love for us all to at least acknowledge the symbolism, you know, for little girls to be able to look up and be like, I truly can be whatever I want to be. I truly can strive for that. Who says I have to strive for just a limited thing and, be limited on life? It's so symbolic for little girls of all colors, doesn't matter where you're from, to see that and to be taken seriously, um, and to stop feeling bullied by society. So I'm not saying all women have experienced that. I'm not saying every woman experiences that. I'm just saying that it is enough of experiences to be known. um, so it's symbolic. Um, of why I will be crying tears of joy. It's more symbolic. Um, and what? Oh well, of course y'all know how I am. Of course the episode is longer than I wanted it to be. Y'all know I be talking. But with that being said, stay tuned. And you don't have to agree with what I just said. I get it. I literally respect disagreements. In fact, I encourage disagreements. If I love disagreements. Please disagree. It is okay to disagree. It is okay to disagree. You know, you know. Doesn't mean just completely reject what I'm saying, maybe think about it. But if you come to the ultimate conclusion that you still disagree, I love that. Please disagree. There is nothing wrong with a disagreement. Well, okay. Wait. There that's subjective. There's nothing wrong or right about agreements and disagreements. There we go. But when it comes to how about this? When it comes to me, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, if you disagree with me, I welcome it. I literally welcome it. Like, it's a great conversation piece, and it's also an area for me to like learn where people are coming from and why they're disagreeing. I think I love learning. Y'all already know that. I love learning. So I was like, yeah, let me learn. The best way I learn is from people, you know, just where they come from and their mindsets. It's a great learning opportunity, and I'm not ashamed to say I'm not right all the time. I'm not ashamed to say I am capable of being wrong as well. And so I think we would get far as a society if we, normalize that mindset of, hey, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I'm right and the other person's right, or maybe no one's right. Maybe it is just valid. Maybe there is no right wrong. Maybe it's just valid. Maybe it's just perspective, that is valid and accurate. Yeah, so there we go. See y'all later this season. Bye.